So when you're joining the military, there's usually like 3 things that can stop someone from joining. It's something physically, it's something from their past, or it's the ASVAB. Now, if it's something physical or it's something from your past, there's really nothing you can do except get a waiver. But for the ASVAB, you can control how well you do on that test. But if you don't understand or you're confused about what this test expects from you, it can seem impossible to pass. And I know this because I was a recruiter, and one of the main things I saw stop people from achieving their dreams was this damn test. So today, I'm gonna break down everything about the ASVAB, from the scores to the history of it, so you can walk out feeling better prepared. Now, I want to tell y'all why this is so important to me. I was in Iowa as a recruiter. I had a guy come into my office and he told me that he wanted to be security forces. If y'all know, security forces is only a 31 on the ASVAB. I told him that shouldn't be too hard. Let's get you on the ASVAB. Let's get you on a practice test. Gets on the practice test, he scores a 15. Now, when people score 15 or below the passing score, this is usually an embarrassing moment. So I didn't want to make it embarrassing for him. So I just asked him, how bad do you want it? He said that he really wants to join. He said as bad as anything he's ever wanted. So I said, if you give me 4 weeks, I can help you pass this test. And he said, okay. So for 4 weeks, him and I sat down and I studied with him. I figured out why he was struggling, and then I showed him the areas he should be focusing on and got him better in those areas. We eventually got him to score a 40 on the ASVAB. I got him in the door. He became security forces, and now he's living his dream. And I was thinking, like, this is one applicant. Like, how many recruiters have the time to sit down with their applicants and study with them like I did for this one applicant? It's not many out there, I promise you, and y'all probably know it too. So for the thousands of people who are out there and don't have a recruiter who can sit down with you like I did, we're gonna break this test down. So the ASVAB isn't like any other test. This is your ticket literally into the military. It tests on a variety of different things like your math, your English, your word knowledge, your arithmetic, science, electronics, all kinds of different things. And you're like, what do I focus on? So then you take the test and it spits back out a score to you on a scale of 1 to 99. And you're like, what kind of test is 1 to 99? And why when I score 40, did they say that that's a good score? Well, because the score that you receive isn't like a typical score. Let's say you scored a 50 on the test. That doesn't mean you got 50% of the questions correct. What that means is that you did 50% better than your peers did. This is a peer-based test and they compare you to people similar to yourself, like people in the same grade and even people of the same sex. And they do this to try to level out the playing field and make it equal for everyone taking this test. As a matter of fact, back in 1997, they held this study called the Pay 97. And what they did was they got thousands of 18 to 23-year-olds, and they were able to use them as a baseline for the ASVAB score. So when you're testing on the ASVAB, you're testing against this group from 1997. So if you get a 50, that means you did the average. If you get a 70, that means you scored 70% better than the people from 1997. If you get below the 50, then you did worse than the people from 1997. I don't like it. I didn't make the rules. That's just how it is. But they have 2 different tests that you can take. One is called a paper and pen test. Now the paper and pen test, you can take this at your high school. It's literally a paper and a pencil and you have to select the right answers. It's a time test and you can't go any faster than the time allotted for each section. One of the secrets about this test is that they only grade your correct answers. So your wrong answers, or if you leave something blank, it doesn't count against you. So there's no reason why you should have any blank answers on your test. And then you have the computerized ASVAB test. Now you have to take this with a recruiter. A recruiter will get you scheduled to go to a testing location, whether it be at MEPS or a location, and you have to take a computerized version of the ASVAB. Now this one is different from the paper and pen. This test is actually smart. And what I mean by that is that this test can tell if you're struggling or if you're doing well. And if you're struggling, you're only going to see like very easy type of question. But if you're doing well, every time you answer a hard question correctly, it's going to give you an even harder question. And this is how you start raising that score up, by answering the even harder questions. But if you took the ASVAB and all you saw was easy questions, then you probably don't get a good score. Now, I said they only have 2 versions of the test, but they also have this one you could take at home called the PICAT. This one is similar to the computerized test, but this one, you have to take a verification test. Because they allowed you to take this test at home, they have to verify if you cheated or not. So when you finally go to MEPS, you're gonna have to take a verification test, and it's basically gonna shoot you some of the questions that you answered on the one at home and see if you can get them right again on the verification test at MEPS. If you get those few questions right, it's gonna let you keep the score that you got from the one you took at home. If it notices that you're answering these questions differently, then it's gonna roll you into the full ASVAB. and you're gonna have to take the full ASVAB right there on the spot. The idea is to score at 31. Now keep in mind, in the Air Force, a 31 has very limited possibilities for career choices. So you want to try to score higher. I always tell people to try to shoot for a 50. If you do not score a 31, you can retest, but you have to wait a month before you're allowed to retest again. In that time is when you really need to start to study. Not only study, but know what to study. So the only components of the test that affect your overall score is going to be the math, the arithmetic, the word knowledge, and the paragraph comprehension. Those 4 sections alone determine your overall score. If you just want to pass the test, I always tell people to focus on the math, because the math, you can boost those scores up very quickly versus studying like paragraph comprehension or word knowledge. It's a little bit harder for people to comprehend that rather than learning equations and learning how to solve those problems on the test. So I always tell people to focus on the math. The mechanical stuff, the electrical stuff, that stuff affects your mechanical score and your electrical score to determine if you can work on the mechanical stuff or not. So if you want to work in mechanical stuff, then you would also want to boost those scores. But if you have no dreams or hopes of working in a mechanical job, then there's no reason for you to study that stuff. Just study the other things to get a passing score. Now, as far as where to study, not everybody can get their recruiter to sit down with them, like I said. So you got to figure out what you're going to use to study. Y'all, I have been running this YouTube channel for about 5 years now. During the time, I partnered up with a company called study.com. In that time, I've had thousands of people use the study.com link that I have in my description box to pass this test. No cap. I gotta say that. To me, there is not a better studying source out there because of the thousands of people that I was able to get into the military using it. It's too easy. It has everything you need to pass this test. It has all kinds of quizzes, and to me, that's the best way to improve those scores, is just doing those quizzes until you can start getting comfortable with the questions. It also has video lessons to help you learn. It has everything you need. And beyond the ASVAB, it has other things that you can study as well. Matter of fact, my son was struggling on the SAT and the ACT. He needed those scores to apply for the college, and he wasn't getting the good scores. So I was like, you know what? I got thousands of people who's passed the ASVAB using study.com. Why don't you use study.com to study for the SAT and ACT? And for him, he was able to pass and get the scores he needed to get accepted into the colleges that he wanted. So hands down, this is the best studying stuff out there. And I have a link in the description. It gets you a percentage off if you use it. If you don't want to use it, use the ASVAB for Dummies. It's a good book as well, but I have to praise study.com for the stuff that they have. So once you finish studying and you get into the testing facility, you got to keep in mind that they're not going to let you have a calculator in there. So if you're studying and you're using your pretty little calculator, it's not going to help you when you get into the actual test. So you need to learn how to do these problems without the calculator. Once again, that's what study.com can help you do. Secondly, this is a time test and you have to finish the test within that time frame. So you need to get comfortable with these questions to where you can move through them fast enough to finish this test. And lastly, you cannot leave the testing facility once you enter. You have to finish this test before you can leave. So you need to make sure you use a bathroom. You need to make sure you eat. Whatever it is that you think you need to do prior to taking this test, you need to do that. And that's why I like telling people to take it at home, because you can get up and go use the bathroom at home. You can eat at home. If you smoke, you can smoke at home. But you can't do none of that at the actual ASVAB testing facility. And that's all my applicant and I did. We sat down and did the math to where he went into the testing facility and was able to boost the score. So we got to stop letting this test kick our ass. We got to take control of our 2025, get ahead of this test so we can start our career, because life is like a little race of success. And the longer it takes you to get started in your race, the bigger the head start everyone else gets. If that doesn't make sense to you, I got a video on the screen right now breaking down 3 different people in this race of success. But like I always say, I hope this video brought value to you. Stay beautiful, stay classy, and until next time, check me out.